Oh, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Tim Green. I'm the features editor of MEF, and I'm old enough to remember when the MEF was the Mobile Entertainment Forum 20 years ago, 25 years ago probably, when all you lot were children, and it's amazing to me seeing the growth of the business and also the growth of this organisation. So, this afternoon we've had presentations on network edge APIs and facial authentication, and then we've just returned kind of back to our roots with the gaming session that we just had. And we're going to stick around with sort of value-added services and best practice around advertising with this next session. And I'm delighted to introduce Gustavo Saab, who's the growth consultant for new business at Google EMEA. And so we're going to have a nice chat. So let's take a seat.
Thank you very much.
So this is a space that's seen huge change in the last couple of years. Anybody who pays any attention to mobile advertising will know that there's been a lot of changes around government action on privacy, which has led to the platforms themselves changing their policies. So can you kind of review the big stuff that's happened in the last couple of years?
Sure. Like if I were to summarize a little bit about what are the changes that the industry has been not only facing, but kind of like seeing, it'll be from the part of data protection, the side of AI, integrations in terms of like different types of regulations that are not only part of Google, but that are a part of governmental practices. These all things kind of like impact and change and help like moving the industry, and all of these changes are here like to stay, but at the same time they are like a lot of good areas of opportunities to oversee after them, right?
So can you give us some examples of the regulation that you're talking about? I'm sure GDPR and others, presumably.
Sure. Like for example, one of the easiest examples that we can talk about is like the change on the cookies, right? Cookies or data protection and so on are changes that the user are not only choosing, they are like looking at having a different privacy settings, and then these will as well help shape the industry in terms of how can we approach the best way to those users, right?
Right. So that's the main change for user controls of privacy. Are there any others?
I mean, if we talk about changes, we will probably stay here for like 3 hours, and we can probably stay here for way longer, right? But like if we were to put in terms of what it's been discussed and lately, I would say that's one of the main ones, and as well the integrations of AI within not only the user, but the way that we approach the user, right?
Let's dive into some of the best practice then, because this is what you're expert in. So let's talk about account structure first.
Sure. Like whenever we talk about the industry and the types of areas that we can work on how to optimize and how to get the best results, like probably one of the main things that you will hear me say it depends, right? Like because at the end of the day, it depends on the vertical you're touching or like distributing, driving traffic. It depends on the size of the offers that you'll have. It depends on the countries, the languages. Like it all at the end of the day, it will depend. But like what I'll say, it's based on my own perspective, on my own experience, and what it's my understanding on the industry, right? And I will say one of the key areas that you need to oversee when you talk about account structure, it will be dividing the accounts that you will have within Google Ads in terms of the verticals. If you, let's say, Tim, that you oversee 3 different verticals, right? And then within those 3 verticals, you will have different languages and different countries that you're targeting. Now, the best thing that you can do here will be have an MCC, which is like an admin account. Within there, you can subdivide with different sub-MCCs that will oversee the different 3 verticals. And within them, the ideal scenario will be to have an account per offer or per product, and then from there, like it will be depending on the countries that you have and the languages that you are going to be targeting. It will be what's the best distribution for them. But like having a very good structure on the accounts, it's not only important in terms of being tidy, but at the same time on how each account will be optimized and will be able to grow in terms of targeting each of one of those audience. Because at the end of the day, they will all behave differently, and they will all have like different areas that you will need to adjust in order to optimize them, right?
Okay, so let's whiz through these then. What about bidding? Best practice for bidding?
Bidding, that's a very good point, that it will depend, right? Like the type of bidding depends on the stage of the campaigns that you have. Like if I were to divide it, I will probably put it in 3 different stages. You have the initial one, that it's like what the industry like to call warming up an account. Then you'll have what it's the scaling, the kind of like ramp up of your account. And then you'll have where you go and grow and scale the account, right? It's very important that you have the right bidding for the right stage that you're going to be facing. At the same time, it's very important to not do major changes within the biddings when you're moving from stage to stage, or you're growing or maturing each of the stages. Because at the end of the day, like I like to say that there are 2 types of approaches to the industry, right? You have the quality side versus the quantity. When you talk about quality, you want to focus a lot on how your CPAs are looking at, for example, rather than when you talk about quantity, that you want to maximize the conversions, and you want to start with max conversions, and you want to go with as much conversions as you can in order to get the algorithm enough fuel to understand what the type of audience and what the type of user and the CPA capabilities that you can have within the account, right? When you talk about the quality, you start with lower budgets. You start with something that will be looking more in terms of your CPAs. So you're more cautious on what are the spend that you're getting and what are the metrics that you're facing. If the metrics are good, then you start moving from stage to stage. But I think it's very important not only to understand the biddings, but what is the best moment based on the objectives that you have to apply within the campaigns.
So if we're discussing bidding, the natural next one is budget strategy. What's the best practice there?
Sure. Like, I mean, I would like to come up with like a magic solution and a magic formula, but it will always depend, right? It depends on the type of vertical, the type of objective that you have, and what is the actual metric that it's the one that you're focusing more. If you're focusing on CPA, because the business model is based on performance, then in here, the budget allocation should be predetermined before you launch or you try a different vertical or a different offer. And it should be very, very clear that you have the budget for each one of those stages. If you have an allocated budget, it will not only help you understand what is the capability of each stage, but it will help you understand what are the metrics that you can oversee in terms of, if I'm going to put whatever amount for my initial, my warm-up of the accounts, then I know that budget is like allocated for that. I'm not expecting to have a huge return of the investment at the beginning, because what I'm doing is I'm focusing on warming up, I'm focusing on getting enough metrics, I'm focusing on understanding that every single area that are within the initial stages are in place, the tracking, it's working correctly, the solution is working, I'm able to not only take from point A to point B the user, but I'm able to track what's happening on the back end, right? So having allocated budgets is something that it's very important, as well as when you're transitioning from one stage to the other. It's very important that we do not do major changes in terms of the budget if we're focusing on a CPA, because that can alter a lot what is the CPA. If I go from 100 to like 10K daily, then that will alter a lot the spend, the understanding on the algorithm and the capabilities. So it will go with a massive change or a drastic change on CPA. So that's something that has to be as well done pre-planned and like well established in terms of what are the stages and what are the objectives that we have, right?
I had on my list quality versus quantity, but I don't know if you've kind of covered that already. Do you want to add anything to that?
In terms of the...
In terms of best practice?
Well, I'm pretty sure like those will be best practices on what will it be each of those stages, but like at the end of the day, it will all depend, right? Like I will more likely have to have a conversation in depth on what is a specific case that anyone here has, and we can just touch base on what will it be the best practices for that. But I think that we kind of cover very briefly there.
Okay, so we talked about best practice. What about mistakes? What kind of mistakes do you see people making with your overview that you've got?
Yeah, that's a very...
What about bidding mistakes?
That's a very good point. Like one of the most common mistakes or the mistakes that you can find when you talk about bidding is utilizing the wrong bidding for the wrong stage. Like if you are focusing a lot on CPA, right? Because you're focusing on performance, and you want to go with like a very short payout, and you want to control a lot your CPA, your cost, and you come with a bidding that it's a target CPA, for example, and then you're not getting enough volume, enough conversions, and you want to go into maximize conversions just for the sake of boosting a little bit the account, that can alter a lot your CPA. So each decision that you do within the account has to be very much in line with what is the objective and what is the stage of the process that you're facing.
Okay, what about analytics and metrics? What sort of mistakes do you see people making there?
One of the mistakes that I think it's quite common, it's not tracking everything within the account, right? Like a lot of advertisers, they will like not advertisers, but like a lot of mistakes are based on tracking properly the conversions. Either you choose internal or external providers in terms of conversions. It's very important that those conversions, if you're tracking them all down, you revert them back and feed them within the account, because that will help the algorithm understanding what is your audience, what are the metrics, and what is the actual performance that it's getting. And a common mistake in here will be not having an accurate system in place and not reverting that back within the account.
Okay, and finally, budgetary mistakes. What mistakes do people make when they're setting budgets?
Well, in here, like mistakes that can be as well done in terms of moving from stages are very much based on how quick should I change from one budget to the other, or how efficient I am in those changes. Like you have to be clear on what is the budget that you have for each stage, but at the same time, if you're getting a good performance on the account and you're hitting the metrics and the KPIs that you initially allocate, then taking time in transition can be as well a mistake. Either if you do it too soon or if you do it too late, it can be a common mistake in terms of changing those budgets. So in here, I will always say have in place your objectives, but at the same time have in place your KPIs, because this will help you understand and identify when you're hitting the sweet spot, or when are you going far from that metric and that objective that you preset, right?
Okay, so given that there's been so many changes that developers have to understand and get to grips with, and advertisers, what are the realistic timescales now for when you're planning a campaign and executing a campaign?
Sure, like I said, there is not a magic formula in here. I would like to come up with a golden rule of this, and these are the 3 steps to follow, but there is not such a thing, right? Like we can talk about is a general and an overall kind of like time frame. And the initial one, when you're talking about the ramp up, the warm up, sorry, of the account, like 1 to 2 weeks will be a good time to have the initial stage of your account. Then from there, when you're going to the ramping up of the account, like 2 weeks will be a good time frame to understand what is the growth, what is the like in terms of increasing the budget, increasing the impact that you might have. And then after that, before you even go into the ramp up, after 4 weeks at least, is when you are able to determine if your results that you're receiving are good or not. Like getting any conclusions before that, it's quite unrealistic. I mean, I'm not saying like you should continue with all the activity if you're not hitting the numbers, right? There is no point in that. But what I'm saying is like if you're not identifying the results on the second date, it's probably too soon to come up with a solution or with a conclusion. So 4 weeks should be an initial time to understand what is the capabilities, what are the reaches, and what is also the numbers that you're facing with a specific vertical, with a specific country or a specific offer, right?
Okay, so obviously no conference would be complete if we didn't talk about AI. So how do you think that AI is going to impact the Google advertising ecosystem? What changes have already happened and what might happen in the future?
Well, I mean, I can talk about some of the changes that are currently facing the ecosystem. I mean, we probably have in this room, and more likely and surely we have people that are way more advanced and on their understanding on AI. So I will just touch it very like upper level.
Yeah.
And what I can talk about will be uh, from the moment that you create content, you're seeing a lot of changes that now on content creation, right? Like there are a lot of implementations that can help now advertisers to create content and to modify the content like from text to images. Like there are a lot of like implementations that can help you not only optimize but like modify a lot the content. Now when you reach out to the users, there are campaigns that are like AI as well. Let's say backed up. Like
Yeah.
you'll have a lot of what we call smart campaigns, and this will help you it will help the account and the algorithm to understand better and kind of like target an audience in based on metrics that as a humans we will not be able to just modify everything manually every time. So you see from the user to the creator to the actual account, like a lot of results in terms of AI and a lot of evolution that will be not only shaping the industry, but will be helping the entire ecosystem to grow in this area.
What does that look like, the AI component? Is it like a text box that you enter, or I mean, how does it actually, how do you get the insights from it?
For example, like one of the quickest ways of explaining AI integrations within ads, right? It will be a different type of campaigns that are relevant for the industry. Like you have PMAX campaigns, or
Yeah.
you have like, for example, new types of strategies that will help you understand what is the right image, the right text, the right headline that should be put into the right user. Now, this type of mix and match generation, like it's just all part of the accounts. You don't see anything different. You
Right.
just set them up when you're creating campaigns, and it will help you reach out and create better results. Now,
So-
it's very important that you understand that each of those campaign types should be not only put based on the objectives, but based as well on the metrics that you have. Not because there is an amazing type of campaign out there, it means that it will be the right one for my audience or for my objectives. So in here, it's very important to understand what are the goals, what are the KPIs, and what are the tools that will help me get closer there. Now, that will probably be a quick example. I know
Yeah.
that probably there will be a lot of questions
Yeah.
regarding this because it's a very trending and hot topic at the moment, and we're more than happy to have them off the stage and have them on a one-on-one in case anyone's very interested in that.
Good. All right. Well, so we started the conversation by talking about some of the new policies and the new regulations that are in place. So what breaches do you see? I mean, obviously you're doing what you can to prevent people from making breaches, but what kind of breaches are you still seeing?
Well, I mean, policy is probably a very huge topic, right? Especially for the industry and when we talk about performance. Now, I could probably spend hours and hours talking about policy, but what I could probably summarize in here is like it's very important to be policy compliant. It's very important to understand what policies are the ones that are involving my vertical, the traffic that I'm driving, and it's very important to be aware that they are always changing. So these are always evolving, and it's very important to not only follow them but adjust in time. Like every time that there is a change, there will be a communication that will be helping you to prevent and adjust in terms of how to follow those. My advice in here is like if you are driving Google Ads and you have an account manager, uh, by all means, not only follow the policy, but if you face any issue, appeal. And when you are appealing the flag that you receive, it's important to put as much information as you can, right? Put the information that you need, put the screenshots, and then once you appeal, you let know your account manager and let know that you've submitted an appeal, that you're facing some policy regulations, and make sure that the account manager be able there to either advise, support, or guide you on what will it be the best step to follow. But by all means, within the account, you can always appeal and you can always understand what was the flag and what was the issue that was addressed in there.
What are the punishments for a breach? What happens if you do breach?
Oof, there are like enormous and numerous types of let's say, like results that you can receive from those. And it all depends. At the end of the day, it all depends, and it depends on what were the policies that you were facing and what were the actual practice that you committed, right? So in here, it will depend on the type of policy, and it will depend on how you can solve it if there is an actual solution or an actual next step that you can follow. Yeah. Right?
Because I think that there was a belief that the kind of policies weren't really being enforced, but that's changing now.
Well, I mean, changes in terms of policy, I think it's a very tricky topic. Yeah. And I think it'll always be very, very hard to kind of like address, right? In order to answer to your question, like I think I will just probably go beyond of what the time that we have in here. So I will say that this is a topic that it's kind of delicate, it's kind of hard, and I will always suggest that follow the policy like flags that you're getting in your account. Of course. Follow the information that the account is giving you, and as well follow what will it be the steps that you can touch on those.
So in the event of some kind of dispute, what's the best way to resolve conflict like that?
I mean, I will say always escalate the case. Yeah. Always come up with like a dispute and then scale this case. And in here it comes in the program that I'm working. At the moment, I oversee, on my team, we oversee what is the growth and the acceleration of the accounts. And in this, let's say, program, what we look after, it's all the different areas that we'll be discussing, from like account structure, credit lines, optimization, launching, the different areas the different stages, and even the policy. All of these areas is something that we oversee and that we cover within the program. And if you're receiving any issue within that program, we can always advise on what will it be the best step to proceed. So like, if you have an account manager, by all means, follow up with them closely. If not, please come by the little desk that we have in the corner and have a chat with us in case this is something that interests you, right?
So we've got 2 minutes left, so maybe you could just summarize best piece of advice for advertisers and publishers on the Google platform, given all the changes that have happened.
Sure. I will probably summarize it by saying having clear objectives will always help you getting closer to them. It's not all about like the objectives and the numbers that you want to get. It's important to have a good system on marking your KPIs, the metrics that you're going to be looking at that will get you closer to those objectives. But at the same time, it's important to have the entire plan before you launch, right? Even from the 3 stages and from the entire like requirement that the ecosystem and the industry will need. And like I said, if there is anyone that is very much interested in following up with any of the topics that we discussed, that we cover, or that we probably did not, feel free to come up by the table, have a chat with us. We're very much open to discuss and have a chat on terms of what are your objectives, what are your projects, and what is the type of traffic that you're running, and we can probably find a way of either collaborating or pointing you out on the right direction, right?
Well, that's fantastic, Gustavo. We know we're trying to regain the lost time, so we won't be asking any questions from the audience, but as you say, you're available
yes.
after the session to chat to anyone who wants to who's got a question for you. So with that, I'll say thank you very much, Gustavo. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.